To the crowd, he was just a security guard standing quietly near the entrance of a packed concert hall. People saw the uniform, the badge, and the tired face, but nothing more. No one knew that behind those worn eyes lived years of practice, sacrifice, and a gift that had once filled his life with purpose. Hidden beneath his ordinary appearance was a talent that could change everything. People walked past him without a second glance as they hurried toward the performance. The hallway buzzed with excitement, laughter, and conversation, yet Daniel felt completely invisible among the crowd. For years he had watched others chase their dreams, while his own remained buried beneath responsibility and time. Every passing face reminded him how easy it was for the world to overlook someone. That night, Daniel returned to his small apartment and sat quietly by the window. Rain tapped softly against the glass, while the room glowed under the light of a single lamp. The peaceful silence brought back memories he had not visited in years. He thought about younger days filled with hope, ambition, and music, before life slowly carried him in a different direction. As he searched through an old storage box, Daniel discovered faded piano sheets, competition certificates, and photographs from long ago. Dust covered the memories, but not the emotions attached to them. Each item told a story of dedication and dreams that once seemed within reach. Holding them in his hands, he realized that the part of himself he had lost was not completely gone. The next day, while working at the concert hall, Daniel paused outside a rehearsal room. Soft piano music drifted through the door and echoed down the corridor. He stood still and listened carefully, feeling something stir deep inside him. The melody awakened emotions he thought had disappeared forever, reminding him of the joy and passion music once brought into his life. Backstage was filled with tension as staff members hurried through the hallways preparing for the evening performance. Everyone seemed focused on solving problems and keeping the event running smoothly. Daniel watched quietly from the side, carrying out his duties as usual. Yet beneath the surface, something felt different, as if an unexpected turn in his life was slowly approaching. As organizers and musicians gathered in worried discussions, the atmosphere grew more serious. Daniel noticed concerned faces and hurried conversations taking place behind closed doors. Although he did not know the full situation, he could sense that something important had gone wrong. Standing nearby, he felt a strange feeling that this unfolding problem might somehow become connected to his own story. While listening quietly, Daniel overheard staff discussing a sudden performance emergency. Their voices were filled with concern as they searched for a solution before the audience arrived. With every word he heard, forgotten memories began returning to him. The crisis unfolding around him seemed to unlock a door that had remained closed for many years, bringing his past back into focus. Then he heard the title of a classical piano composition he knew by heart. The familiar name instantly stopped him in his tracks. Memories of long practice sessions, competitions, and dreams rushed back into his mind. For a moment, the years seemed to disappear. The music he had once loved so deeply suddenly felt closer than ever, awakening a dream he thought was gone forever. Gathering his courage, Daniel approached a young staff member and quietly shared something about his past. At first, the employee seemed confused, unable to believe what he was hearing. But as Daniel explained his experience and connection to the music, surprise quickly replaced doubt. The simple conversation marked the beginning of a chain of events nobody had expected. Before long, Daniel found himself standing face to face with the conductor. The discussion was serious, and every word carried enormous weight. Fear and hope battled inside him as he considered what was being asked. The opportunity before him seemed almost impossible to believe. Yet deep down, he knew that this decision could change the course of his life forever. For the first time in many years, Daniel sat before a grand piano. Bright stage lights shone above him, while the empty hall seemed to hold its breath. His hands hovered over the keys, trembling slightly as uncertainty filled his mind. He remembered how long it had been since he last played seriously. The moment felt both terrifying and strangely familiar. After the first practice attempt, doubt quickly returned. Daniel worried that too much time had passed, and that his abilities were no longer what they once were. The concerned expressions around him only increased his anxiety. Every mistake felt larger than it really was. Yet despite the pressure, a small voice inside him refused to give up completely. Closing his eyes, Daniel thought about the teacher who had first believed in him many years ago. He remembered the lessons, encouragement, and advice that had shaped his journey as a musician. Those memories reminded him why he had fallen in love with music in the first place. Slowly, his fear began to fade, replaced by a quiet determination to try once more. With trembling hands and a racing heart, Daniel walked toward the brightly lit stage. Beyond the curtain waited a crowd that knew nothing about him or the journey that had brought him there. Every step felt heavier than the last, yet he continued forward. The dream he had lost so many years ago was finally within reach, ready for one last chance to shine. Under the bright stage lights, Daniel sat at the grand piano, surrounded by silence and expectation. The audience watched quietly as he took his place on the bench. For a moment, he felt as if time had stopped. Years of regret, missed chances, and forgotten dreams stood beside him on that stage. One small decision had brought him here, and now everything depended on what happened next. He lowered himself onto the piano bench slowly, feeling the weight of the years behind him. The stage felt larger than ever, and the spotlight seemed brighter than he remembered. Every breath carried memories of a life that had drifted away from music. Yet despite the fear in his heart, he remained seated, determined to face the moment he had spent decades avoiding. His hands hovered above the piano keys without touching them. Fear whispered that he might fail, while hope reminded him why he had come this far. The hall remained completely silent, waiting. In that stillness, Daniel could almost hear the echoes of his younger self, practicing for hours, dreaming of a future that had once seemed possible. Then the first notes finally arrived. Soft and fragile, they floated gently through the hall. Daniel played carefully, afraid to break the delicate moment. But, as the melody began to form, old memories returned. The piano no longer felt like a stranger. It felt like an old friend welcoming him back after many years apart. With every note, Daniel's confidence slowly returned. His shoulders relaxed, and his movements became more natural. The fear that had gripped him began to fade away. The music flowed more freely now, carrying emotions he had hidden for years. Somewhere deep inside, the musician he thought he had lost was finding his way home. Soon, Daniel became completely absorbed in the performance. His eyes closed halfway as his hands moved across the keys with growing freedom. The audience listened without making a sound. They were no longer watching a security guard. They were witnessing a man reconnecting with the greatest passion of his life through every note he played. A difficult section of the composition arrived, demanding precision and confidence. Daniel focused intensely, refusing to let doubt take control. His fingers moved carefully yet confidently across the keyboard. Even the orchestra members watching nearby exchanged surprised glances. What began as uncertainty was slowly transforming into something remarkable unfolding before their eyes. As the performance continued, the music grew stronger and more emotional. Daniel no longer played with hesitation. Every note carried meaning, experience, and truth. Audience members leaned forward in their seats, drawn into the story hidden inside the melody. The connection between performer and listener grew deeper with every passing moment. For a brief moment, Daniel closed his eyes completely. Memories of his younger days returned with stunning clarity. He remembered long hours of practice, his teacher's encouragement, and the dreams that once guided him. Those memories flowed directly into the music, adding warmth, tenderness, and honesty that touched everyone listening. The performance reached its emotional peak. Daniel poured every part of his journey into the piano. Joy, pain, loss, hope, and determination blended together within the music. Around the hall, audience members quietly wiped away tears. They could feel the truth behind every note, even without knowing the full story of the man playing them. At last, the final notes drifted into silence. Daniel allowed his hands to rest as the last echoes faded away. No one moved, no one spoke. The entire hall remained frozen in a moment of pure emotion. It was as if everyone wanted to hold on to the beauty of that final sound for just a little longer. Then the silence broke. Applause erupted throughout the concert hall, growing louder with every second. People rose to their feet, cheering and celebrating what they had witnessed. Daniel sat motionless for a moment, overwhelmed by the response. After years of feeling unseen, he finally understood that his gift still mattered. As he looked across the crowd, his eyes met those of a young music student sitting near the front. The student watched him with admiration and inspiration. Daniel smiled gently, recognizing the same dreams he once carried at that age. In that quiet exchange, he realized that his story might inspire someone else to never give up. Eventually, the applause faded, and the audience slowly began leaving the hall. Daniel remained beside the piano, resting his hand on its polished surface. Gratitude filled his heart. He was no longer thinking about success or recognition. He was simply thankful for the chance to play once more and rediscover a part of himself he thought was gone forever. As morning arrived, Daniel stepped outside into the fresh air. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets shining beneath the early sunlight. He walked forward peacefully, no longer burdened by regret. The concert hall stood behind him, but the music remained within him. For the first time in many years, Daniel felt completely free.